Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin is a Russian politician and former intelligence officer who is the current president of Russia, a position he has filled since 2012 and previously from 1999 until 2008. During Putin's first tenure as president, the Russian economy grew for 8 consecutive years, with GDP measured by purchasing power increasing by 72%. The growth was as a result of a 5-fold increase in the price of oil and gas, which constitute the majority of Russian exports. He was born in Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, on October 7, 1952, the youngest of the three of Vladimir Spiridonovich Putin and Maria Ivanovna Putina. Putin's birth was preceded by deaths of 2 brothers, Viktor and Albert, born in the mid-1930s. Albert died in infancy and Viktor died of diphtheria during the siege of Leningrad by Nazi Germany's forces in World War II. Putin's mother was a factory worker and his father was a conscript in the Soviet Navy, serving in the submarine fleet in the early 1930s. Early in the Second World War, his father served in the Destruction Battalion of NKVD, the Soviet secret police. Later, he was transferred to the regular army and was severely wounded in 1942. Vladimir Putin studied law at Leningrad State University, where his tutor was Anatoly Sobchak, who later became one of the leading reform politicians of the Perestroika period. Putin, who still walks in an upright posture, served 15 years as a foreign intelligence officer for the KGB, which is the Committee for State Security, including 6 years in Dresden, East Germany. From there, he witnessed the fall of Berlin Wall, the fall of communism. In 1990, he retired from the active KGB service with the rank of Leningrad State University. At the time, he was in charge of the institution's external relations. Soon afterwards, Putin became an advisor to Sobchak, the first democratically elected mayor of St. Petersburg. He quickly won Sobchak's confidence and became known for his ability to get things done. By 1994, he had risen to the post of first deputy mayor. In 1996, Putin moved to Moscow, where he joined the presidential staff as deputy to Pavel Borodin, the Kremlin's chief administrator. He rose through the administrative ranks, serving as director of Federal Security Service and secretary of the influential Security Council. Putin's public approval ratings soared when he launched a well-organized military operation against secessionist rebels in Chechnya. His entry into the helm of Russia was quite eventful. On August 9, 1999, Putin was appointed one of 3 first deputy prime ministers and later on that day was appointed acting prime minister of the government of the Russian Federation by then President Boris Yeltsin. Yeltsin also announced that he wanted to see Putin as his successor, and it is no wonder that later on the same day, Putin agreed to run for presidency. On August 16, 1999, the State Duma, lower house of the Federal Assembly of Russia, approved his appointment as prime minister with 233 votes. A simple majority of 226 votes was required, making him Russia's 5th prime minister in less than 18 months. On December 31st, 1999, Boris Yeltsin unexpectedly announced his resignation, and according to the Constitution of Russia, Putin became acting president of the Russian Federation. On first day in office, presidential decree that Putin signed was titled "On Guarantees for the Former President of the Russian Federation and the Members of His Family." That decree ensured that corruption charges against the outgoing president and his relatives will not be pursued. Upon assuming the presidential role, Putin went on a previously scheduled visit to Russian troops in Chechnya. Putin's way of operating was clear from the start. He reportedly tightened his grip on freedom of the media while enjoying the lack of genuine opposition. Yeltsin's resignation in 1999 resulted in the presidential elections being held within 3 months. On March 26th in the year 2000, Putin won in the first round with about 53% of the vote. As president, he sought to end corruption and create a strongly regulated market economy. On March 14, 2004, Putin was re-elected as president for a second term, a landslide victory that saw him garner 71.9% of the vote. The near 10-year period prior to the rise of Putin after the dissolution of the Soviet rule was a time of upheaval in Russia. In a 2005 Kremlin speech, Putin characterized the collapse of the Soviet Union as the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century. He was barred from a third consecutive term by the constitution. Putin's focus on his own power and wealth has, however, been relentless. By 2008, when his 2 terms were up, Dmitry Medvedev replaced him as president, but in a power-switching operation on May 8, 2008, only a day after handing the presidency to Medvedev, Putin was appointed prime minister and everyone knew who was in charge. Putin said that overcoming the consequences of the world economic crisis was one of the 2 main achievements of his second premiership. The other was stabilizing the size of Russia's population between 2008 and 2011, following a long period of demographic collapse that began in the 1990s. His second premiership was not without scandal. After the parliamentary elections on December 4, 2011, tens of thousands of Russians engaged in protests against alleged electoral fraud, the largest protests in Putin's name. Protesters criticized Putin and the United Russia and demanded annulment of the election results. While speaking at the United Russia Party Congress on September 24, 2011, Medvedev announced that he would recommend the party nominates Putin as its presidential candidate. He did not shy away from revealing that the 2 men had long ago cut a deal to allow Putin run for president in 2012. This switch was termed as Rokirovka by the media, the Russian term for the chess move castling. But it wouldn't take long before anti-Putin protests took place after the presidential campaign. An estimated 8,000 to 20,000 protesters gathered in Moscow on May 6, where 80 people were injured in confrontations with the police. 450 people were arrested, while another 120 arrests took place the following day. Putin's presidency was inaugurated in the Kremlin on May 7, 2012. On his first day as president, Putin issued 14 presidential decrees, including a lengthy one stating wide-ranging goals for the Russian economy. As the March 2018 presidential election approached, it seemed all but certain that Putin would win a 4th presidential term by a wide margin. Alexei Navalny, the face of the opposition, was barred from running, and the communist candidate Pavel Grudinin faced incessant criticism from the state-run media. Vladimir Putin gained 76% of the votes in the first round of the March 18, 2018 elections, which attracted 8 candidates. The 4th inauguration of Vladimir Putin as president of Russia took place on May 7, 2018. The inauguration marked the commencement of the new 6-year term of Vladimir Putin as president of Russia. In 2021, Vladimir Putin signed legislation that gives him the right to run for 2 more consecutive terms. Theoretically, this means that he stays in power until 2036. Amendments approved by Russians in a nationwide vote will allow him to run for 2 more 6-year presidential terms. If re-elected twice and serves to the end of the second term, he will beat Joseph Stalin, who became the longest-serving leader of Russia since Peter the Great, who was in power for 42 years. Although Putin is believed to hold billions of dollars in personal wealth, little is known about the exact amount or where it might be. However, American-British financier William Broder in 2017 testified before the US Senate, estimating that the Russian leader's wealth hovers around $200 billion, which is approximately 22.8 trillion Kenyan shillings in assets, which would make him among the wealthiest people on the planet. What is Putin's problem with Ukraine?
The streets in Leningrad called me one thing: if a fight is inevitable, you should strike first, hit first.
Russia is resisting Ukraine's move towards European institutions, both NATO and the European Union. President Vladimir Putin claims if Ukraine joins the two institutions, it will be a puppet of the West. Putin demands guarantees from Ukraine that it will not join NATO, which is a defensive alliance of 30 countries. He also wants Ukraine to demilitarize and become a neutral state. As a former Soviet republic, Ukraine has deep social and cultural ties with Russia, and Russian is widely spoken there. But ever since Russia invaded Ukraine in 2014, those relations have frayed. Russia attacked Ukraine when its pro-Russian president was deposed in early 2014. The war in the east has since claimed more than 14,000 lives. According to an article by BBC, in President Putin's eyes, the West promised back in 1990 that NATO would expand not an inch to the east, but did so anyway.
I can assure you that our grand-scale plans for 2020 will be delivered.